Senator Waiboyi, I don't know who people that are praising you. Maybe they're your family members. Because I'm not here to praise. In fact, I'm here to condemn. Wait, let me finish now. You are my dear brother. I'm here to condemn the Senate. Because what you people did yesterday was what Dr. Abati has been calling a red herring. You know what a red herring is? A logical fallacy. In one breath, an impossibility. In one breath, you say electronic transmission it shall go through. In another breath, you say it's at the discretion of the presiding officer that determines if network is good or not. So are you saying we have over 176,974 polling units? Are you saying is these presiding officers that will determine if the network is good or not? So what you people have done is to deceive and trick Nigerians. I don't know those that are praising you, but I'm not sure our lovely mommy Obi Ezekwesili will be part of them praising you this morning. Those two questions.
Thank you, Rufai.
Thank you, my brother.
I'm happy that you still acknowledge me as your very good friend, and I am. Now, what we did is correct and should be accepted by every patriotic Nigerian, except those, who are playing the politics of opposition. But I've always said, everything is not politics. This is a fact, and they have to argue with facts. Now, by inserting for the first time the electronic transmission in our law gives court the power to recognize any result from IREF. It was not so before. And I said it, and I expected you should praise me and the 10th Senate in that aspect. You know, the 9th Senate never did so. You can read the Electoral Act 2022 from beginning to the end. You will not see where IREF was mentioned. You will not see where electronic transmission was mentioned. But the 10th Senate boldly said in Section 60 sub 3, as proposed to be amended, that the presiding officer at every polling unit, after collecting the result, entered in Form EC81A, shall, not may. That word shall makes it mandatory. And that word shall gives the court the power to recognize the result in IREF. And if that transmission fails at the moment, it will report in the system that it was tried and it failed. So it doesn't give INEC or the presiding officer the discretion to say that there is network or there's no network. Everybody will be there. The polling agents will be there. Security agencies will be there. It will be done in an open place. And that takes me to what I said on channels just a few minutes ago. People should stop playing politics on television or protesting at the National Assembly. National Assembly is not the problem of Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria is you and I and the man in the street. Can we for once do what we're supposed to do and Nigerians before we can hold our leaders accountable? But everybody is claiming to be a saint. Now, I won't dwell into the candidates because we are yet to produce candidates for the forthcoming general election 2027. But I want to assure you that APC, the victory of APC is already looming everywhere. And that is the fear of the position. But let me tell you something, you cannot stop a good man.
Very quickly, thank you very much. I have two very short questions for you. The first is, I want to know, because you did say you're a lawyer, I want to know what you understand as Form EC8A by the presiding officer and countersigned by the candidates or polling agents where available shall in such a case be the primary source of collation and declaration of results. Because by the use of the word primary, it means that anything else is inferior or secondary. So how can you say that the result on the IREV can be contested in court if it's a case like what we saw in Edo State in 2024, where IREV and physical forms had totally different results? That's the first question. The meaning of the word primary. Then my second question is, you're talking about accountability, but you guys were not open to individual votes. You wanted a mass voice vote. If it's accountability, why couldn't each of you call your names and have your position recorded by Nigerians?
Thank you very much. But let me take your question bit by bit. If you lump the questions I will miss your answers. So can you repeat the first question before going to the second questions? Thank you.
No problem. Very briefly, define the word primary.
To take over this
define the word. He's free to do so. That's fine. You have, we invited you. You're our honorable guest. Define the word primary. When something is primary and something else is secondary, what happens?
In law, we have primary evidence. We have secondary evidence. We have certified true copy of the primary evidence. All these copies are admissible in court with fulfilling some conditions. Now, why it's called primary evidence is that is the first point of reporting the result as it happened in the polling unit. That is why that from EC8A is called primary, because that is the first result. Now, this result will be transmitted to IREF. That result in the IREF, in law, without express provision, is a CTC of what is in the form EC8A. And court will recognize what is in the IREF because pursuant to Section 60, Sub 3 of the Electoral Act as proposed to be amended. And that should clear all the fears of Nigerians. That is the point.
So
that is what we're talking about.
Will be
so
superior.
Any argument
what
you
if
are
they are
making,
different? What if they are different, as we saw in Edo State? What if they are different?
They are the same.
They
are the same. Primary document is the same thing.
What was uploaded to IREF
because
was
it was not entrenched. Why that happened was because there was no law backing electronic transmission before now. But the 10 Senate have taken the bold step to make it a law that the result, though primarily, after being written in Form EC8A, should be transmitted to IREF. The result in the IREF is the same thing with the result in the EC8A, where there is differences, where the figure in the Form EC8A fails to tally with what is in the IREF. I'm not the court, but I assure you that the court, by virtue of what we've done, by virtue of demands of Nigerians, by virtue of the 10th Senate being a corrective and responsive Senate, responding to the demands of the majority of Nigerians, inserted Section 60 Sub 3 to make it now a law in Nigeria, which never happened since 1960, even from 1914, when the country was amalgamated. So I believe that the 10th Senate deserve applause from Nigerians. Thank you, sir.
I like your energy. Yes. I like your enthusiasm. This morning alone, you have gone from one TV station to another. I think a man should stand up for what he believes in. And I've said earlier on that what the Senate has done is to respond to the concerns of Nigerians and to meet them halfway to show that this Senate is committed to political stability and peace. However, where the issue is that you raised the point that the 2022 electoral did not talk about electoral transmission. Are you sure? If you look at the guidelines, there is an issue there about transmission, which is allowed as part of the modes that the INEC can use. What is the issue here is that the Supreme Court, December 2023, by John Inyang Okoro, JSC, ruled that IREF is a viewing portal. It's not a collation portal. To what extent does this latest position override the position of the Supreme Court? And then the second issue is about associated issues. No, you can take the two of them together. It's about funding.
No, let me take the first one. Let me take the first one, sir.
Okay.
If you oblige me, sir.
Yeah, but be brief.
Yes.
Because now, the second question is important.
You're brief, sir.
Go ahead.
I will brief, sir. I'll be brief, sir. Yes. I'll be brief, sir. Now, the difference between the Electoral Act of 2022 and what we are doing now, and which will make the decision of the court different from what happened in INEC versus Atiku, which is a very popular case, celebrated case, as far as this electronic transmission of voice is concerned, is that this is the time. Yeah, this is the time that the National Assembly have inserted it in our law. And the word there is shall, not may. That is the difference. And moreover, the INEC guideline and the Electoral Act, the Electoral Act overrides the INEC guideline. If there is conflict between the guideline and the act is the act of the parliament. The guideline is a guideline of the agency. So the Electoral Act supersedes the guideline. So with what we have done now, Abati, and to all Nigerians, nobody will rig election in Nigeria. All that is required is for all eyes to be on the ball by all political players. Thank you.
Okay, this morning, I also quoted Joseph Stalin, who said, those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. Now, the Senate and subsequently the major conference of the two chambers would, following the same path, I imagine, would discharge itself, acquit itself. However, how about INEC? Because the responsibility now is on the part of INEC. How about funding? How about providing the infrastructure? How about ensuring that INEC even gets its funds early enough to be able to make any difference? I know the legislature cannot determine that. So those who count the votes, what level of burden do you think that they now bear?
Thank you so very much. With the position of the law, if adopted the way it is, wherein the transmission has been made mandatory, the man who is counting the votes has nothing to add or remove as far as counting of that vote is concerned. Like I said earlier, remember, upon arriving at the polling unit, the first thing you do is accreditation with the BVAS machine. The number of accredited voters will, at the end of the day, will be matched with the number of vote cast. So if the number of vote cast is more than the number accredited, the result of that entire polling unit remains cancelled. That is the law. That is the law. Now, when you come to providing logistics to INEC, of course, it goes without saying that INEC, bill or budget have always been treated as a first-line charge. And I don't think as of today that INEC will complain. They have given notice of election, are about to give. I believe that at the right time, the chief executive, the number one citizen, the president commander-in-chief, I know very well, will not hesitate to provide to INEC what they need to give Nigerians credible, free, and transparent election come 2027 and beyond.
With this new electoral law you passed, who will be the one? What evidence will be brought forward? Is it the E68A form, physical? Evidence will be taken to court to prove an election. Is it the E68A form or the result on the IRF downloaded on the flash?
By the law, both stands as credible evidence in law court. Both of them has evidential value in court.
More time, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for your time and your submission.